Good afternoon from New York. We're coming on the air with breaking news. Other big stories, the King of Pop has died.
Diana, Princess of Wales, has been killed in a car accident.
Kurt Cobain, the leader of one of rock's most gifted and promising bands, Nirvana, is dead, and this is the story as we know it so far.
Hey guys, welcome to the next episode of Dead Famous the Pod, where we delve into what really happened to our stars, allegedly. So today's episode was completely unplanned, but unfortunately Matthew Perry recently passed away, and I'm going to talk about him because I really feel like he deserves to be acknowledged for all the good work that he did. I feel like it's really looked over because of some of the roles he's played, but we'll get into that in a minute. Now, I've decided to bring a guest on because I'm not going to lie, I wasn't like a major Matthew Perry fan. Like, I liked the show he was on, but the timing's really weird because I'm actually halfway through reading his book right now. I'm literally up to chapter 6 of 11, and one of my friends lent me this book because she's just finished it. So I thought I would bring her on because she knows a bit more about him and just so we can do his story justice. So everyone, welcome Alana.
Hey!
Oh my god, how are you?
Good! Thanks for having me.
Look, I'm excited, but I'm also not because it's like a sad situation. But I'm excited that you're here. Now, just in case people don't know, he's done some movies. One's called Fools Rush In. It has Selma Hayek. It's just like a rom-com. And then he did a movie with Bruce Willis. He's been on a few episodes of 90210. But he actually is most famous for his role as Chandler Bing from Friends. So, Alana, can you tell us a little bit about this show and his role in it?
So you guys probably know Matthew Perry as Chandler Bing from Friends, one of the most loved sitcoms of all time. Chandler was most famous for being Joey's best friend and Monica Geller's boyfriend / later husband.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, Matthew Perry is probably the character on the show that could not be replaced.
Yeah, I agree.
No one else.
I agree.
Yeah, I don't think anyone else in the world could have pulled off Chandler the way that Matthew Perry did.
Now, none of the cast of Friends have spoke up individually yet, but they did bring out a joint statement. So I'll just read that. So they said, and quote, "We are all so utterly devastated by the loss of Matthew. We were more than just castmates. We are a family. There is so much to say, but right now we're going to take a moment to grieve and process this unfathomable loss. In time, we'll say more as and when we are able. For now, our thoughts and our love are with Matty's family, his friends, and everyone who loved him around the world."
Collectively, the world is like grieving the loss.
Yeah, well, I read somewhere, like, everyone's taking it so hard because he was so relatable, and we know the show Friends as them as a group. So losing one of them, that's why it feels so personal, because it's like the show will never be the same. Your viewing on it will never be the same.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I found this online the other day, and it says, "I think losses like Matthew Perry feel very personal because you haven't just lost an actor from your favourite show. You've lost someone that made difficult days better. Someone who reminded you of a friend that you had. Someone you wish you had as a friend. And each time you'll now turn on an episode, you'll remember they're not around. But a tiny part of you is still holding on to them. Maybe that's what happens when someone impacts your life. They leave, but what they left behind stays."
That's so bloody true.
Accurate.
Yeah, that just like wrapped it up nicely. What I was trying to say.
Yeah.
Thank you. So look, we're going to talk about his life now and hopefully try to do him like justice in telling this story. So we're going to actually base it from his memoir called Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing, which came out in 2022, because we really want it to come from, you know, his lips instead of other people's. So, yeah, we'll get into it now.
Yep. So Matthew Perry was born in Williamstown, Massachusetts on August 19th, 1969. His mother, Suzanne Marie Morrison, is a Canadian journalist who was press secretary to Canadian Prime Minister. But his father, John Bennett Perry, is an American actor and former model.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
There you go.
His parents separated when he was 1 year old, and his mother married a Canadian broadcast journalist, Keith Morrison. So they moved to Canada, and Matthew was raised by his mother in Ottawa, Ontario. By age 10, Matthew started misbehaving in a way that, some adolescent boys do. He stole money, he smoked, he let his grades slip, and he actually beat up a fellow student who would later become the Canadian Prime Minister. Right.
Awkward.
Yeah. In Canada, he became a top-ranked junior tennis player. However, after moving to Los Angeles at the age of 15 to live with his father, he became more interested in acting. In addition to performing in several high school stage productions, he remained an avid tennis player. Perry ranked 17th nationally in the junior singles category and 3rd in the doubles category. After graduating from Buckley High School in LA, Perry intended to enroll at the University of Southern California, while accepting a few small guest appearances throughout 1983, 1985, and 1986. However, in 1987, he was offered a leading role as Chaz Russell on the television series Boys Will Be Boys. He seized the opportunity and that kick-started his acting career.
So I actually remember he did his very first movie, A Night in the Life of Jimmy Reardon, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember reading in Matthew's book that he was out with his friends, he was at a cafe, and then he actually got slid a note by this random dude who turned out to be the director, William Richard, and it was like trying to get him on the movie. And I just found that really interesting because that's also how River Phoenix got his part in that movie. He was another famous actor, but he died when he was young. I just found that interesting.
Yeah, really interesting. Like, imagine sitting at a cafe and just getting like a napkin with a name and phone number on it, and it basically said, "Call me."
And it kickstarts your career,
Yeah,
really.
yeah.
Wild. So in his book, Matthew really opens up about his struggles with addiction. He says he had his first drink around 13 years old when he was like with his mate. And he says it made him feel like a way of escaping his life and all that. But he didn't actually really get addicted to anything until later. He was 28 years old. He was filming the movie Fools Rush In that I mentioned before. And he actually had a jet ski accident while filming that. So he came off the jet ski somehow and he like fucked his neck, but he was in a contract and had to keep filming. So they just got a doctor to come on set and they gave him a Vicodin. Now that is what he says really kickstarted his addiction. Didn't he say a comment in the book about something like that?
Yeah, so there's a comment in the book that the doctor gave him a singular Vicodin pill that he had in a little plastic sleeve and he popped it in his pocket. A few days later, the pain continued, so he decided to take it. He says that if he never took that singular Vicodin pill, the next 3 decades of his life could have panned out so differently, which
That's
is
so sad.
Super sad, yeah.
So he also mentions later in an interview actually that he was taking about 55 Vicodin a day, which is like insane to me. I can't even imagine that.
Absolutely.
So even while filming Friends, which we all know Chandler Bing, he was like a happy, funny character. Like he was dealing with such a dark time in his life and he was in and out of rehab. He even lived with his dad for a while he was trying to fight the addiction, but unfortunately he didn't really get over it until he was about 49, is that right?
I think so, yeah. He went to hospital for a ruptured bowel and almost died. So he really dives into that in the book. I think the first line of the book is, "My name is Matthew Perry and I should be dead." And he is referring to this incident where he had a ruptured or perforated bowel and almost lost his life.
So let's get into the death itself. So he came home after playing around a pickleball and then he sent his assistant to go out, run some errands, and by the time she came back, he was dead in his hot tub. Now, we don't really know the exact cause of the death yet, but there's rumours and it's been reported that it was cardiac arrest that led to drowning. But again, there's nothing official that actually says that.
So apparently Matthew played pickleball every day, sometimes twice a day for hours. He loved racket sports, as we know from his brief stint with tennis.
Yes.
But Matthew played pickleball every day, sometimes twice a day. Leading up to the day that he passed away, he had been complaining about feeling extremely fatigued, and on the day that he passed away he was actually only able to play an hour of pickleball before he said he wasn't well and he had to go home.
Now there is a conspiracy going around the internet though that his death may have been no accident, purely because there's some really cryptic Instagram posts on the lead up to his death. So now I encourage you to go get his Instagram up and follow along. Just to make it easier, you could also follow from my Instagram account at deadfamousthepod. I'll be putting all of these posts in a slide for you. On the 17th of October, he puts up a post of himself watching the movie Batman at home. Next post, on the 19th of October, he uploads a photo of the bat signal. It seems like it's on his pool, like a lit up version reflecting on his pool. And he refers to himself as Matman. On the 22nd of October, he puts up a photo of a sign saying Batman plays pickleball with the caption WTF, which means what the fuck. On the 23rd of October, he captions a photo saying, "This is what I've had to eat today. I'm Matman." Now that photo is of 3 single cranberries. On the 23rd of October, again, he uploads a photo of like the Batman symbol carved into a pumpkin with the caption, "Do you know what I mean?" Again, on the 23rd of October, he uploads a video of the moon at night and he captions it, "Do you understand what I'm trying to tell you? I'm Matman." And once again, on the 23rd of October, let's remember a few days before he died, he posted a photo of himself in his hot tub at night. Okay, these theories stem from the fact that Matthew died the night after playing pickleball that day. So if you remember that post saying Batman plays pickleball, they have put 2 and 2 together there. Also, the fact that he puts up bat signals on his photos, and in the movies that is seen as a distress signal. When there's like danger, Batman puts up the bat signal. So people have thought that's what it's about. Now, the other weird post is of those 3 single cranberries. Now, this might be a long shot, but people have theorized because in the band The Cranberries, the lead singer died by accidental drowning in a hot tub. The only difference being that the lead singer of The Cranberries was found to be intoxicated when she died. However, Matthew Perry's toxicology results are still pending, but it has been reported that there was no fentanyl or meth in his system.
I did read that about a year ago, Matthew Perry was asked if he was still sober, and he declined to comment. Not to say that he was or he wasn't. I know there were a few celebrities that reached out after the Friends reunion aired with concerns. And in my opinion, on the Friends reunion, he seemed sober, but you could tell there had been maybe like a lot of damage done throughout his life.
Well, and like we never would have guessed watching Friends in general that he wasn't sober then. So I guess you just never know.
I never knew until like years later, actually, that he was...
I never knew until you read the book and told me about it.
Yeah.
So that came out in 2022.
Yeah. I had previously read that there were full seasons of the show that he doesn't recall filming due to being well within his addiction. But yeah, I didn't really know the depth of it until I read the book.
Another interesting part is that Dr. Michael Baden, who was a former chief medical examiner in New York, actually said to Fox News, and quote, "If Matthew Perry had died of a heart attack, that would be immediately apparent and they would have said so. For some reason, they are holding up the rest of it," being the toxicology report, which is pretty weird. And also, Matthew Perry's last book chapter name is called Batman, and he says, again, quote, "Someday you might be called upon to do something important, so be ready for it. And whatever happens, just think, what would Batman do? And do that." Now, what do you make of all this, Alana? Because I'm feeling some way.
No, I really don't know. I mean, it's been speculated that, you know, the Batman was a distress signal. He was putting out a distress signal. In my opinion, I have to say I think it is just one big coincidence. I know he was a huge Batman fan. He lived in a very modest house in the Palisades, and he had a room, like a shrine dedicated to Batman. He was just a huge fan. Personally, I think it's just a big coincidence.
I did, until hearing what that doctor had to say, because he's kind of right. I also read that he said, like, if it was a heart attack, yeah, it would have been immediately apparent. So, like, why are they withholding information? That's the weird part to me. Yeah, so on that, there's no doubt that Matthew Perry changed the course of his life to help others struggling with addiction. Like, he even opened up his sober house. He actually turned his Malibu beach house into a sober living home for men. They offered like holistic services and stuff to support. And he also was very trying to spread awareness about addiction and stuff. So in 2016, he actually wrote a play, and it was called The End of Longing, and it was to show how people struggling with addiction can turn their lives around. I actually wish I saw that play, because I feel like that would have been really interesting.
Yeah.
From like his point of view.
Totally. I don't know if you know this, but he actually went with Hank Azaria from The Simpsons to his very first, Hank Azaria's very first AA meeting, and supported Hank Azaria through that. And Hank Azaria is still sober to this day. He has come out this week and said, let us know all of this. But he's also said, I wish that Matthew had have stayed on that journey with me, because we could have done this together.
Which is really sad. Yeah, I can't. Well, that's the thing. Like, so many people have come out and said, like, his book alone changed their lives, but there's so many different ways he helped them. And yeah, even now that he's died, his family's launched the Matthew Perry Foundation to help people with the disease of drug addiction. And it's just so sad that someone who struggled for so long, I guess, never really got the happy ending that he deserved.
Yeah, I have to say I find that really sad too. A few times in the book he mentions that, by this age he thought he would have like a wife and little kids running around, and I find that really sad. But I do take some comfort in knowing that he sort of, in a weird way, lived vicariously through Chandler and, had it was all for TV, but had the wedding with Monica. They ended up with the babies. And in some way, I do take comfort knowing that he did sort of experience it in a weird roundabout way.
Yeah, look, it's all just a fucked up situation, but if anyone out there's listening who struggles from addiction or knows anyone that does, I feel like this book is a really good way of seeking just comfort in knowing other people went through it and how to help.
I also want to note that he doesn't want to be remembered just for friends. So I think it is important just to put in here that through his recovery, he became an advocate for rehabilitation and a spokesperson for the National Association of Drug Court Professionals. And in 2013, he received the Champion of Recovery Award from the White House Office of National Drug Control Policy.
Wow. And like I said before, we have the Matthew Perry Foundation to help people now. So if anyone needs to reach out to them, I'm sure they are always readily available. So again, thank you for listening to my episode. I will shut up now. And thank you to my guests for coming.
Thanks for having me.
And if you like this episode, please subscribe. Follow me on Instagram. It's @deadfamousthepod and my TikTok. And yeah, I'll see you in the next episode.